If you feel pain, even if it's very subtle, work on it, try to identify, be aware. What's going on, fam? Welcome back to another whiteboard session with me. Okay, so for today's topic, we are going to be talking about pain. Welcome to the life. Alright, so as usual, I'm just going to get started. Why am I talking about pain? Well, someone actually messaged me about posture, pain, stuff like that. But anyway, I actually want to get into this because pain is a huge thing, especially for people who are a bit older. Alright, for our members who are about 40, 50, it becomes more of an issue, and that's also one of the reasons why they hopped on the program. But anyway, pain, honestly speaking, it's not so much pain that we want to talk about, but actually the longevity of you, right? For you to be able to actually work out more, move better and all that stuff, longevity, right? That's what the aim is. But why are we talking about pain? Because pain most of the time is an indicator that tells you that you've got to work on something, right? And pain is an indicator, but a lot of people make a mistake whereby they're actually working out. This is probably for those who are a bit more overzealous, but also for those who, like probably a bit desperate to lose the weight, lose the fat, which is okay, but they end up pushing through pain, which is a no-no for longevity's sake. Okay, so sometimes it's gotta be, you gotta take one step back in order for you to move 2 steps forward. But pain as an indicator tells you what you've got to work on, and more importantly, there are different points here that I want to go through in terms of why pain generally comes about. And the most important thing, as I want to say at the front, is that you do want to make sure that you're not working with pain, you're not pushing through pain, you are actually working around pain. Alright, that means that if you do feel pain or discomfort in certain movements, you probably don't want to push yourself through it. You probably want to work around it, or if not, in terms of work around it in terms of not doing that specific movement. If not, work on the movement so that you get better and you don't feel pain in those areas. Okay, so let me get down to it. The first thing here, by the way, drop your questions in the chat and I'll make sure I go through them. The first thing here that I want to talk about, right? Pain can come from a lack of control. So what do we mean by that? A lot of times, especially when you are not someone who exercises a lot, and not someone who may be naturally gifted in movements, meaning that you know how to move quite naturally, this usually is a big case of what leads to pain, right? The lack of control. When you aren't aware of how to actually control your movements better, when you aren't aware of how you should be engaging certain kind of muscle groups, certain kind of joints, right, as you move through certain ranges for your movements, this lack of control, what it might result in is that your bones may shift, your joints may shift in certain awkward angles, and you put certain pressure on the joints, okay, and thereby also causing some nerve impingement, for example. I don't want to really go into that because a lot of people just go, oh, nerve impingement for everything, okay, but that's not the case. But the lack of control do lead to that, and that is what causes pain, okay. And because of what I just mentioned, the lack of control, right, you're not moving properly, the joints, pressure and all that stuff, it leads to that pain. It becomes an indicator that you may be moving in a way that is causing these issues, okay. So if you're just pushing through the pain and just working through the pain with the pain, you are forcing yourself to go through that repeated repetitions of joint pressure, all that not so good stuff, just continuously chipping away at what could have been healthy. Okay, so this is one of the things that lead to pain. The other thing that might lead to pain is actually bad form. Okay, so some of you may be asking, alright, Hock, lack of control and bad form sounds like the exact same thing. Well, there are overlaps, okay, but they're not the same thing. So think of it this way: you can have really good control and really bad form. How? You are purposely controlling yourself into or moving in that bad form, which happens, right? Because you don't really know how to properly execute certain things, okay? And like I said, maybe your joints are at an awkward angle, and because of this lack of control, but even with good control and you're forcing yourself into that form, you know, that triggers the pain, like what I said. Okay, so for lack of control, sometimes, you know, you kind of know what form you're getting into, that could be good form, but because of a lack of control, you kind of maybe bounce yourself, which is quite common, bounce yourself into certain kind of end ranges, stuff like that. You know, you aren't controlling in yourself into that good form, and then because of that, it causes that joint issues, pressure and stuff like that, and it just triggers the pain. Alright, so there is a difference between the lack of control leading to pain and executing with bad form, right? So typically, if you can better understand how to execute certain movements with good form, you can help relieve that pain, right? Some of the posts on some of the content on my feed actually helps with the form wise, so just take a look at those, okay? And finally, this thing here, not really finally, but I'm just going through 3 points here. One of the biggest things that actually leads to pain is actually existing structural issues. Obviously, in the human body, the structure we have, of course, actually a lot of things, but the main structure that most of you are going to be, you know, once I say you acknowledge it, is your skeletal structure, right? Your skeletons. So existing structural issues, and this is probably where chiropractors actually come in, but let me just say first, chiropractors are not sufficient for you to relieve the pain, okay? But anyway, existing structural issues, I'm talking about bones, okay? And like what we mentioned about joint and awkward angles, when you are already having pain, alright, and the problem is, okay, if you go through an extended period of time without working and relieving the pain, finding the source and working on it, what happens is our muscles actually pull or stretch certain joints in a way to make you feel comfortable, and as a result of that, the bone structure, the skeletal structure actually displaces itself so that you feel comfortable in the way you're moving, but the skeletal movement then causes a chain of events, right? Your whole body starts to shift and stuff like that. That's why you see sometimes people with the turtleneck, people with scoliosis and stuff like that. Their actual skeletal structure has changed, and that is the current persisting structural issues that they face. Once the skeletal structure moves, okay, it's going to be harder for you to shift it back just by movement. So that's why sometimes chiropractors help, right, by shifting the bone back into the proper place. But this is where, you know, why I say there's a difference, why chiropractors are not sufficient, is that once your bones shift, right, the problem is your muscles that were tight or too loose previously that caused the bone to stay in that place is still going to be the same. So once the chiropractor kind of shifts your bone back, the muscles that were holding it in place has to be able to learn to stretch itself, you know, be a bit more stretchy, put it in layman term, and also to loosen in certain parts, so that the muscles that will hold the bone back in place will actually hold the bone back in place. Okay, so this doesn't just come from chiropractor shifting your bones, right? The muscles, if you don't work on it properly, it's going to pull that bone back. That happens, and then, you know, that's why chiropractors keep earning a lot of money, right? So these 3 things, okay, like I said, once these 3 things come into play, you know, it could be a variation of these 3 factors. Once they start to affect your joints, start to affect the pressure that you're placing on certain joints and certain angles, it will cause pain. Alright, and this is a huge issue nowadays because a lot of people are actually training through pain and actually putting it off to age, to say that yeah, I'm getting old, so it's a natural thing, let me just accept it. Right, the more you accept it, the more pain you're going to feel in the long run. And well, for someone who has been there, I don't love it, right? You're not going to love it, and this actually does affect your mood in a pretty long, for for a very long time. Alright, so if you feel pain, even if it's very subtle, work on it, try to identify, be aware of what are the issues causing it, so that you can relieve it and not feel the pain, if at all, anymore. Okay, so there was my whiteboard session with me for the topic of pain, right? So I'm just going to ask and see if you all have any questions, if any of you actually walked through or listened through what I just mentioned. Do you have any questions? Let me know if you actually feel pain in certain areas and you really resonate with what I'm saying here. Lack of control, that's one. Practice movement, alright, practice the control of movement. Bad form, you really just gotta look around and don't just take general advice, by the way. You know, like all those advice that your knees shouldn't go past your toes. What other advice are there? Oh, you shouldn't bang your weights and stuff like that. That doesn't help with shit, right? So really understand what form means specifically for you. Okay, don't go for generic advice. Yeah, Amber, great question. How do you relieve back pain because you're sitting all day? Great question. Really simple answer. Okay, if your back pain is what we call soreness. By the way, there's a difference between soreness and pain, right? So if you have back soreness because you're sitting all day, a really simple tip here is to start getting up and out of your chair and move around a bit more. Okay, that's just a really simple tip, but it actually goes a long way, because back soreness is not really a case of just bad posture and stuff like that. It's really a case of you not allowing your back to strengthen itself and at the same time go through a full range of motion. The reason why most people get the back soreness is because when you sit, your back is either stretched or compressed for a very long period of time, right? So that's why I said, you know, a very simple tip, and it goes a long way, is you standing up, moving around, move your spine through a longer range of motion, you know, like that. Just kind of move through the range of motions more often. That actually goes a really long way for back relief. Okay, and you know, if you're looking for an answer whereby it's like, oh, you got to put on like this lumbar support, put it there, or what, massages and stuff like that, trust me, it makes you feel comfortable. You might not feel as pain, but it's going to weaken your core, right? So at the end of the day, the best thing for you right now, and the tip I'll give you, is really to go through a full range of motion more frequently, more regularly. Okay, just remember what this quote is. Basically, don't expect yourself to undo something that, you know, you go through a long period of time for. So for example, if you're sitting 4 hours, don't expect, let's say, 10 minutes or 15 minutes of some relief to alleviate the effects of something that you spent 4 hours in. Alright, so that's why I said just set some reminders, get up regularly, move around, walk around, allow your core to engage itself and strengthen it. Go through the full range of motion so that it allows that muscles to stretch and go back in the way it's supposed to be, the elasticity. It will go a very, very long way. Will the pelvic pillow help with your lower back or your back as well? Here's the thing, right? I'm very careful and concerned that I don't want to give you advice that is not better understanding you. So I won't exactly give you like a yes or no answer here, but I will say this. If your lower back is actually aching quite a bit, okay, and it's because it's in a very stretched state, then yes, you know, a pelvic pillow may help you accentuate the S curve that is supposed to be there naturally. Alright, but I will say this, like I said, if you don't want to just allow something to put your spine in certain positions, okay, and allow that natural spine curve to be there, you also want to work on it in terms of strengthening it through, you know, back curls, so compressing the lower back spine. That's one. You will also want to learn how to stretch the spine by stretching it out, right? So yeah, like I said, I don't give you like a yes or no answer, but if you find that it's gonna help, yeah, you know what, just try it. If it's gonna help, I will still advise you to learn how to move and mobilize your spine better, okay, because that is a long-term solution. Something like a pelvic pillow, like I said, if you rely on something too much and your muscles start to atrophy, right, meaning that your muscles start to weaken because something else is holding your spine in place for you, then it's going to spell trouble for you, because there will come a day when you suddenly want to move in a certain way, but because your core muscles aren't strong enough, your spine shifts in a certain angle, and that causes, you know, pain, right? And in the worst case, it's actually paralysis, right, which some people eventually do experience. But I hope that it's not you. Okay, anyway, I hope that helps, Amber. Great question. I'm gonna end it here, alright? Hope you all learned something from this, okay, and stay tuned for the next whiteboard session.